Hello friends, it's Simone. I am here and I'm completely unprepared, but this is a snippets from my desk video and I am focusing on pens and inks today because I want to. I haven't played with pens and inks in a while. I just received some happy mail from my friend Laura, who sent 2 ink samples that I want to swatch. Someone left a really cool comment on my video where I talked about the Waterman being too dry and the Lamy 2000 being so wet that they suggested, what about swapping the inks? And I want to try that. I also want to tell you about my evaporation test that I did. And then I am thinking about starting another notebook, and I want to test out the grid size for that because it's going to be a Zentangle notebook. So I thought we could try some Zentangles, or the same Zentangle in different grid sizes. So the inks that Laura sent me were Sailor Gentle Pesh. I think that ink isn't made anymore, and she thinks it's awesome, so I should try it, which I will. And then Mont Blanc Alfred Hitchcock, which I don't really know why she sent it, but I never say no to inks. All right. I haven't swatched inks in so long that I don't even remember how I do this. So I think what I want to do first is samples from Laura. And this is August 11, 2024. 1 and 2. And then I can add the swatches or samples for other things below. I have been swatching. Water is right here. Feel very overwhelmed with this right now. I have been swatching. I actually have not been swatching inks in this notebook for a while, and it shows. This totally reminds me of some of those Birmingham Penco inks. Maybe I can find the one that I'm talking about in this notebook. Oh, okay, this did not work. I have no idea how exactly I did this, so please bear with me. It's interesting to me. So I'm just coming out of 3 months worth of using ink bottles and not samples. And I wonder if my approach to using ink samples is going to be different moving forward. Sailor. Ooh. Or not. I just mentioned it in another video. So if this is a repeat, I'm very sorry. I'm just assuming that you're not watching all of my videos. And so I'm just catching you up on. Wow, I have no idea when exactly this video stopped because my camera stopped filming. Not because there's not enough storage, because it was just the battery was dead. So we're going to do 4 things. The first one is swatching samples from Laura. I already started without you, unbeknownst to me. I started swatching Sailor Gentle Pesh. There is some haloing around here. This looks more purple than brown right here. It seemed to be quite a dry ink, but we will see how that works over here. What I was talking about while I was chatting away was if you have noticed that when you're using your bottled inks and your samples, if your thought process or approach to using those is different. I noticed that after this whole project, my summer project, Summer of Bottles, I definitely noticed that I have different thoughts when I'm using ink bottles and when I'm using samples. I would love to know if that is something that you notice for yourself as well, or if it's just me again. Now, my thought process when I'm using samples is mainly focused around, is this an ink bottle that I would want to purchase a bottle of? And I have come to the conclusion that is not really healthy, because it puts quite a lot of pressure on the ink, on myself, on the pen that I'm choosing, and it takes away from the enjoyment of the process. Since I've been using bottles all summer long, I don't know if this is going to change now, because I have been using samples mostly in 2023 for sure. 2024 I started to use bottles and samples. So I wonder, I never really paid attention to how I felt or my thoughts. I mean, this is so deep into the rabbit hole and so deep into the fountain pen. Maybe you don't even think about any of this. I do, because I'm a chronic overthinker. But yeah, I noticed that there is a difference when I'm using a bottle than a sample. It feels more, I seem to be more anxious when using bottles than when using samples than when using bottles. And the reason why is that because I have a bottle, I have so much more time to explore that ink. And that was definitely a great experience to have. And it makes me wonder why I always think about ink samples that way. Why can't I just simply enjoy the ink until it's gone and then move on? Basically, thank you for the experience, ink. Let's use the next one. This is much better for sure. Mont Blanc, Alfred, Hitchcock. So what I'm getting at is, do you have the same thoughts? Maybe I'm just the odd one out as usual, and that's okay. I can live with that. But it would be just an interesting thought process, and maybe something that you can check yourself before you wreck yourself. That you can check for yourself if that's something that you're thinking, and how to maybe even overcome that thought process, because these inks don't deserve to not be enjoyed. Also, though, I am really looking forward to using samples in maybe September for 30 inks, or I might just go and do a 31 inks again. I haven't decided yet. Well, no, I'm really close to deciding that I am. Did I just not make the card? Oh my God, I'm so stupid. This is what happens when you talk, and this is why your teacher at school tells you to pay attention and not chat with your neighbor. Yeah. So I'm pretty much 80% decided that I am going to move my 30 inks 30 days to a 31 inks 31 days, because I remember how I felt last year after the San Francisco Pen Show when I started 30 inks 30 days, that I felt like I didn't have enough time to explore the things that I purchased. And that completely went under because of the September 30 inks. And I don't really think that's what I want to do again. I want to just, you know, play with the things. And I'm currently not, something like this is not happening on a daily basis for me at the moment. So I just want to have the chance and opportunity that if I'm going to the San Francisco Pen Show and I just filmed a video talking about the things that I want to do, how much money I already spent, that if I am spending this much money on this experience, that I am allowing myself the time to process that experience by exploring all the things that I buy, by swatching all the inks that I receive as samples from friends, by testing out all the new pens, the cleaning supplies. You know, I don't really know what I'm going to end up with, but last year I felt like I didn't give myself enough time to play with all the new things. Okay, so here is Sailor Gentle Peche. Here is Mont Blanc Alfred Hitchcock. I have two things to say. This one seems to be very light, so I'm curious to see if I find a pen that I can use it in, that I like it in. I really love the shading bits that are, or the haloing parts around the ink here. Mont Blanc Alfred Hitchcock is a color that is similar to writer's blood, maybe ox blood even. It's a reddish brown, brownish red. Yeah, I think I would describe it as a red leaning brown, brown leaning red with hints of blue. It has that tinge of, you know, blood. And I was going to look for a similar color to Sailor Gentle Peche. And what it reminds me of, yes, right here. Magnolia Mirage by Birmingham Pen Co. I think this ink is more pink than this. It's more vibrant for sure. Let me see if I can find that in my... here. It has more blue. It's definitely similar, but it's not the same. And then let's see if I can find... It also reminds me of, what was that name of the ink? Maybe a wearing ghoul? All the Best by Diamine. Diamine Ancient Copper is more orange. Let me just put this here and I can go through this. What oxblood was the color that I was looking for, but what is this color? Communication Breakdown is also more orange. Deep Dark Orange is more orange. Huh, who would have guessed? Earl Grey. Here. Yeah, I can see. I think this is almost more interesting than Oxblood because it does have that haloing around. But the color that I'm thinking of, I don't know if I can find it. Ginger Chicken is too orange. Winter Wood is too dark brown. Deep Umber. Nope. This will not let me go until I find it. Not KWZ. No. Not Lennon Toolbar. Maybe an Octopus Fluids ink? I don't know. Oh, Le Petit Prince. Le Petit Prince. No, I don't pretend to is more purple, but it has similar qualities. There's also that haloing around the wetter swatch. Nope. Not Papier Plume is not the right one. Pelican, what do we... Pelican Brown is way too brown. Pannonia, not... No, not. Maybe a Robert Oster ink? This... What is this one? Warm Book Smell. Purple Hippo. Look at this. Very similar. This is more purple for sure. What's this one here? Where is it? Manyu Ume. Also not that bad. And then, so, Tachia Ume Murasaki is similar. It's not the same, but similar. So we are coming to the colors that I think might have it, and that is Wearing. Yep, that's what I was thinking of. Wearing Infinite Cube. Maybe, possibly, it's a different paper. It has similar qualities. So that is the ink that I was thinking of. I'm glad I found it. So these two. So I guess what I'm telling myself and what I've been talking about is that it makes more sense for me, especially with the amount of exploring and doing with my fountain pens and inks that I get at the moment. And it might, if it's because of the heat, then it might get better the more we get into September. But I'm not banking on it. And so I think that if my plans come to pass, then I definitely have quite a few inks that I will bring back home. I will have tuned and ground pens. I might want to film videos talking about my experiences. And so I think not giving myself the time to just, get to know the things that I'm bringing home is a missed opportunity to play. So maybe I should do that just because that's what feels right. Okay, let us sneak peek for a video. Let's just move to a new page and put a date on this. I think it was Raymond who suggested to try these two inks and swap them around. So today is Sunday, August. Okay. August 11, 2024. And what I am going to do is ink up my Lamy 2000. And I think I'm only going, this is the piston all the way down. I think I'm not going to do that because I just want to ink it. Well, what if I like it? You know what? I'm just gonna do this, and I'm going to put this all the way down and then just suck up some of the ink. Wow, look at this. That's a lot to clean here. And I'm definitely going to bring out my tester book with Tomoe River paper as well. Okay, so I'm going to title this. I'm going to have a title here. This is going to be the ink swap experiment. So I like posting my Lamy 2000. So this is Lamy, oh wow, 2000. So now how do I know that this is not because there's just so much ink still here? 2000 with a fine nib. This is a 14 karat gold nib. And it is inked with Pilot Iroshizuku. Tsukiyo. So okay, so I'm going to write. So does this feel better than the Teranishi? I am actually thinking that yes, Teranishi guitar ink. My first impression is yes. I mean, it still feels wet. But not as wet. And uncontrollable. Then the other ink. Okay, now that's interesting. Let me check what it looked like in the currently inked. Huh. Okay, let's open this up. See if we can find an empty page right here. It definitely, I mean, that's why I like this pen. It definitely also feels, yeah, I actually think that this is easier to handle. So maybe I can just leave this inked for now and see. Okay, so that would mean, so what does this mean? This would technically mean that this ink is better than this one. Well, you can see so much. This ink is better than this one, in theory, if my impression is not just a random impression and it's just different today than that last time when I used it and felt like it was so overwhelmingly wet. But that would definitely make this a great contender to be in that pen and maybe be better to use, better to write with. I don't know. So have you gone to any pen shows? Stationery Fest, possibly? It just finished. When did it finish? Friday? Did it go from Wednesday to Friday? I believe so. Are you going to the Atlas Sidewalk Sale? Are you doing any of the fun shows, events? I whined yesterday in my Discord server. I know that definitely at the DC Pen Show there were quite a few people who came home and had COVID, or were exposed to COVID, and probably possibly also exposed others to COVID. And I whined about the fact that, well, first of all of those people have been through to so many pen shows, the exhibitors, that we might possibly have a super spreader event. So the thing to do would probably be to, oh, see, there's some fuzzies on top. I'm gonna take those off. The sensible thing to do would be to mask. And the thought of that just doesn't sit well with me. But also the thought of exposing people or getting exposed also doesn't sit well with me. So I think the mask would be the better option to me. Okay. Man, Karen, Deluxe in blue with a fine, and this is an 18 karat gold nib, and this ink is Teranishi Guitar Gentle Green. But yeah, I whined a little, but I will totally mask, because I just because I think I had COVID for 2 times. I'm not really sure. Maybe once. Doesn't mean that the 3rd time or the 2nd time that I have it is going to be mild and I won't have long COVID or anything. And also, I don't want to bring it home. What if one of my children... Yeah, just thinking about that feels like so. Okay, so I'm going to write so. What do I think? I can't really put into words what I'm thinking. I think this ink flows better. But I also think it's still not wet enough. For me, not this specific ink. I think actually this ink is good in general. If I don't get this tuned and made I will not have many inks I can use in it. Now, well, but maybe I should wait and try a little more. Because now that I'm writing with this, it feels really good. And I don't know if this is just a one-off or if there's other inks that would really work well in this pen. So what I'm thinking right now, this moment, which I can change again before the San Francisco pen show. My idea was to take this to the San Francisco pen show and get it tuned so that it would flow wetter. Now I'm thinking maybe I will just keep this a little longer and use some of the other inks that I know that are wet in this, just to see if the Sukiyo was just a one-off that didn't flow well. Maybe I'll try it with an ink that is less wet and see how that works. I still have my Waterman Karen inked with Hanging Rice, and that is not a particularly wet ink. And it works really well. This is Hanging Rice. And it works so well in this pen. And I have a similar feeling with this pen and ink combination too. The writing experience is very similar now. So I think I'm going to keep this a little while longer and test it out more. Actually, I'm going to send it to my friend Nikki so she can play with it for a bit. And I also, these are two Waterman Karens with fine nibs. I own both of them now, but I will probably be letting go of one of them. I don't really need to. So I'm not sure. I need to think about it more. I really like this one. This has grown on me so much. I was drawn to this prior because it's just, the cap looks so stylish, classic. But this simple blue pen just is stunning in itself. It's a really great blue. So yeah, we will see. This is not something that I have to decide right now. And interestingly enough, I really, really love when an ink is wet. But at the moment, I am preferring these finer nibs more than these gushers. That's an interesting... That to me is a very interesting experience. I haven't had this in a long time. I used to really enjoy finer nibs and finer nibs, thinner lines. And then I was so enthralled with these wet pens and broad strokes. And now I'm moving back to the finer nibs. So I guess that's definitely a sign for you not to get rid of all of the different nib sizes and not focus on one thing when you know that you like them all, because it seems like it changes with mood. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I also am really drawn to these darker inks, like these ones. And I had a really hard time using, I mean, the Dynamite All the Best is also pretty dark. But I had a really hard time with this specific 3-pen, this one. This week was like, okay, I don't really want to use any of my pens. And that was sad. So it's interesting. Okay. See, that's what I mean by, okay, if I have a sample, I probably would be able to do this, but I couldn't say, okay, let me ink this pen with this ink and see what this looks like. So I really like bottles for stuff like that. And let me put this to the side a little and show you an experiment that I made yesterday. Here, this is my evaporation test, and I think I'm going to do that every once in a while, especially when I'm working on my currently inked reviews, to see how long does it take. Well, first of all, does the ink look the same as it did when I put it into the pen? And if not, how long does it take until it does? These were the 6 pens that I shared on my currently inked. This video that is coming sometime next week, I believe. And this was the most annoying one for me, because it kind of reminded me of Konpeki. I already have Konpeki. I don't need an ink that evaporates to Konpeki. I would much rather write with Inspired Blue. And so this pen I have already decided to only use with my Pilot Parallels. This is the Opus 88 demo in pink. I was surprised that the Sailor Pro Gear, somebody mentioned recently that the Sailor Pro Gears would be so bad with ink evaporating and the color darkening in the pen. I haven't had that experience. This is the Sailor Pro Gear. This is the Sailor King of Pens. Both of them look basically the same. I had a hard time with my Beno Ambrosia again, and so this is not necessarily showing anything, but I also really liked how the Benu pens both basically looked exactly the same as when I inked them up, and I hadn't used them for quite a bit, basically all week. I inked them and then I didn't use them. That's how that went. And even this is a Lamy Safari. This is the Lamy LX. Both of them looked pretty much exactly the same as when I put the ink inside. I was surprised about my Bone Crusher Velma. I had already suspicions about the Gravitas pocket pen, and even though it has there is an O-ring that should seal the cap, but it doesn't help with the color change, clearly. The Karen worked really well. This is the Pelikan M800, Pilot Custom 823. Both of them, I just couldn't really remember what the original ink looked like. They held up really well. And then the Loner pen from my friend Amy, definitely not holding up well for my climate here. Oh well, I will talk about this in a video where I just talk about the pen that is coming sometime soon. So when I flip through this notebook, I often get stuck here, and I really like how this Zentangle looks. So I thought I don't really want to incorporate that into my ink journal. I don't really know why I don't, but I feel like this warrants yet another ink notebook. And so what I have been thinking about is using maybe a Hobonichi, but probably this notebook, because this is what I have in my stash. And I think the A6 size would lend itself nicely to have a good square here that I could fill, and then I could write what it is, which I'm really like pirating on these Zentangles greatly from Karina. So I am not doing a lot of research on Zentangles or anything, and I'm justifying this with that's totally okay. She's sharing it on YouTube, and if she wasn't okay with that, she wouldn't share it. That's how I justify this. But if I have these thoughts, I thought I wanted to share them with you, because if you're like liking that look and you would want to try, then why don't you just go to and check out Karina Loves to Plants channel. If you don't know her channel yet, you have been living under a rock, because she's far more known than me. And she did definitely for 30 inks in June. I am not 100% sure about April when she did 30 inks as well, but I know for sure that all through the month of June, for every entry that she did, she also did a Zentangle, and she filmed herself every day doing the swatches and doing the Zentangles. And so I just went to her channel, the last June video, the first pen that she used, and am going to use that Zentangle. I want to do it here with the really teeny tiny grid of the Hobonichi, and I think that is that 0.38 millimeters, or is that even, no, 1 millimeter. So it's not 0. It's 3.8 millimeters grid, maybe, or it's 4 millimeters grid. This is a 5 millimeter grid. So what I thought is I could either start or completely do it in here, and then I want to do one where I use one grid as half of a square, if that makes sense. So why don't we use that beautiful pen that I just tried? So I actually just used my pencil and copied the Zentangle up here to see how it would work. And this is how she started. Oh, well, actually, that's not how she started. She did straight lines with a ruler first. So maybe I should do that. Oh, no. And I'm very ambitious, because this is the size of the Zentangle that I have chosen. I don't think you really have to use a ruler, but you could, for sure. Is that? No, it's going even further. Oh my God. Yes, extremely ambitious. So, and then, and the lines down here. and then we go this way. So what I could do is I could do all of those first. And then go back down. Oh. Okay, now I actually feel like this, even though this is a fine nib, this is already too wide for this tiny grid. What do you think? I would really love to know. Oh wow, this is not good. I'm gonna put it on time lapse now. What do we think? I think this is really tiny. Do I want to use the same pen for this? I think I'm just going to do maybe 1, 2, maybe 4. Like so. I'm gonna use the same pen for this just to see how it feels using a bigger grid. Also, what would this look like without the inner divider thing? You know, that one. So 0.5 millimeters is definitely the way to go for me. Let's see what it looks like in you know, what did I say? 0.55 millimeters. That's what I mean. Would be definitely the grid size that I need for this. And I think I'm going to use my Lamy 2000 for the really big grid that I have in this one. Also, I don't really like making lines with dots on them, if you couldn't tell. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting thing to try. So what I'm doing is, instead of, okay, so this is the grid. So I'm going to use 4 of those as one grid. That's why this looks like this. So this would be basically double the size in this way and double the size this way. Okay, let's try this. Let's try and see how this looks. Okay, I'm going to... Oh my God, I did something wrong. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go and do this again. So I need to mark this 4. Okay. So 4 plus 4 is here, right? 4 and 4. Yep. 4 plus 4. Okay. Okay. Oh my God, this is so wet. But I mean, you know, this is then for those, either for us old ladies who can't read, who need the big print book, or for the beginner learner, their lines are huge as well. So in theory, this is what I want, right, to work for me, because I don't have another book that has 5 millimeter grid. I have a book that has whatever this size grid is. This is super tiny. If there was a Zentangle that was tiny or had less lines, I could make a really tiny one. But what I need is for this to work. And considering the fact that I am actually enjoying this most. Still don't like these, but these actually look nicer now in this big grid, this could actually work. And also, I wouldn't have to do that many repetitions. So if I was going to put this on a, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have to do, how many did I do? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I did 30 of those. If I was going across this way, I can do one more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can do 1, 2, 3. So 15. That is doable. That fills a page for sure. And I think it still looks good, right? Or does it look like, oh, we can totally see a beginner did this? Not that I would care, but possibly a little. Oh my God. Okay, and then we do this. So if you haven't, oh my gosh, sorry, if you haven't tried Zentangles, and you only have the tiny grid like I do, and you haven't had the idea of maybe just doubling the grid size, using 4 as one, then here's your tip. Try that and see if that works. If this works for this fine wet nib, then it will work for other pens as well. Wow. Yeah, I like this. Does it have to be tiny? Do I have to cram my hand like this? No, I can also enjoy this in a smaller format, and that is totally fine. So I would have to go up here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 up here, and then oh my gosh, I'm so jittery right now. Okay. Yeah, I like this, as you can see. Otherwise, I wouldn't really go out of my way to even completing more of this Zentangle. I think this is for the way to go for me. I'm glad, actually, because that means that I can actually use one of the notebooks that I have in my stash right now. I can so if you do Zentangles, where do you get your inspiration from? Are you lazy like me? Are you using Karina as your inspiration? I'm really thankful for you, Karina, that you do this whole thing, because it makes it accessible for me. I don't think I'm the type of person who then goes down total rabbit holes. Like, I will research the heck out of this until I have lost my interest before I can even start. So having this in these bite-size Zentangles that you did during 30 Inks 30 days was super helpful. Every time I watched those videos, I was so inspired to try this myself. Every time I'm talking to you because I hope that you're watching. But every time you did one of those, I was like, oh my God, this looks so simple. This looks so doable. I should try this, and I never did until today. So here we go. I like this a lot. This is my way to go. Here's my beautiful pen. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I haven't explored in such a long time, and this was so much fun. I can't even tell you how much fun I had trying this finally. This is one of those notebooks that I started and tried and didn't work. And now I'm just using up the paper here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you're an anti-evapораtionist as me. And what do you do with those pens? Do you use them? Do you just write with them every day? Because some of them I really like. But I know that I'm less likely to ink them up if I know that my ink is going to go dark. And would you take the Waterman Karen to get tuned, or would you keep trying using it? And also let me know if you have used Sailor Gentle Peche or Mont Blanc Alfred Hitchcock, and what you think about when you think. It's not necessary when using a fountain pen and ink to deep dive into these kinds of topics. But now that I told you, do you have different approaches and thought processes when using bottled ink compared to samples? I would really love to know. And yeah, I can't seem to stop because I really like hanging out with you. Until next time, bye.